friends, it's Julie, the Seussical Stitcher, back for another episode of Flosstube. Thanks so much to those of you who watched my first video and subscribed. I was just tickled with all of the comments and engagement that I had with fellow Stitchers. My virtual friendships have expanded, and I just can't tell you how much it means to me that you took a few minutes out of your day to spend some time with me. So you can see I'm in my office again today for this recording. I won't always be, but this is the busiest time of year for me as we get ready for a brand new school year. So I'm often here on the weekends prepping and getting ready for teacher training sessions and things like that, and I was going to be here today anyway, so I thought I would just film while I was here. I did take the time though to do a few clips from my house to show you a couple of things, my stitching area and my craft cave, where I have kind of converted part of our bonus room upstairs into my own area. But first, I'll show you my works in progress. I'm continuing to work on Sing a Sampler by Silver Creek Samplers, and I just am loving this. It's been a lot of fun to stitch. I'm down to the last 3 blocks. I've not spent a lot of time this very last week stitching, just due to work and things like that kind of getting in the way, sabotaging my schedule at night. But this is really coming right along. There are variegated flosses in this as well as DMC. I've said before that I'm cheap, and so I choose to use DMC if I can get away with it. And so, but you can see that the gold color is variegated gassed, and so is this brown. It's sable. So but I'm really loving this. I can't wait to finish it. I really think I'll finish it this week. I'm a monogamous stitcher, as I said before, and so this is the project that gets my attention. I do want to share a couple of finishes with you. These are finishes from the last several months. Most of these I worked during the summer months, and so I'm really proud of this first one. This is called Santa's Workshop, and it's by Mill Hill. This is a Jim Shore design. I know it's a little bit hard to see probably in this view, but I'll tilt it up, maybe that'll help. This is covered with beads. Now, for those of you that are familiar with this pattern, there is a border. It's a quilted kind of pattern border that goes around, and I will be honest, it was just a little too daunting for me to tackle. So what my plan is, I'm going to take the mat all the way up to this edge, and I'm seriously thinking about maybe trying to paint the mat myself, maybe doing some sort of kind of quilted design on the mat. I'll test that out to see how it looks before I actually put paintbrush to mat. But I'm kind of playing around with that idea, and I may end up matting it in that way. But this is one of my favorites. I absolutely loved doing this. I love this fabric. The color is called Time, and it is by Witchelt. So this is the 4th in the Seasonal Celebrations series. I really love this. I dyed this fabric myself just with Rit dye. I really love the way these have turned out. And the way that I will frame these, I've already, you can see this one obviously still needs to be ironed and mounted. But what I do is I use the same frame and just change out for the season. So I will show a picture for the next season that's coming up. When I change it out to autumn, I'll show a picture so that you can see what that frame looks like, and I just change out for each season. But I love this winter seasonal celebrations. My last finish is a cross-eyed cricket collection. Again, sorry, this really could have used an iron, but I love this. I think it turned out so cute. I dyed the fabric myself, and just a really pale blue, and it does have Krynic, a blend with Krynic and DMC in the snowman. I just love this bird feeder that's hanging off of the E. This is actually I didn't know what that was when I looked at the picture and the pattern, but then when I saw the little bird sitting on top, I realized that's a seed ball. How cute is that? So I'm just tickled with this. This is the first one I've done in this series, but I have purchased the other 3 seasons. And what my plan is to do something similar with this that I did with the seasonal celebrations, and possibly use the same frame and just change them out for each season. But I love this and cannot wait to get it in a frame for this year. So my upcoming plans include this cricket collection, Playing with the Jacks. I hope to start this as soon as I finish the Sing a Sampler. I just love this, and I saw Nell over at Little House Needle Crafts had finished it, and she just did a spectacular job. Used this great fabric with it. She's going to enter it into her state fair. I just love it. I just think it's so unique. I did not realize when I purchased this pattern that there's the big pattern that you see pictured on the front, and there's also this smaller pattern. This is just a little small of a mitten with an owl with a little witch's hat on it. And then there's another one. I don't think it has a picture, though. I think it only has the pattern. Yes. There's another small pumpkin that's not pictured, but it's only the pattern. So there are actually 2 smalls in this leaflet, and also the large Playing with Jacks pattern. So I'm looking forward to starting this. So I'm going to take just a few minutes and give you a tour of my stitching spot and my craft cave before I give you the something to think about segment. So come with me and let's take a tour. So this is my stitching spot. Downstairs in the den. I'm on one side of the room, my husband's on the other. I always say we're like Edith and Archie. We both have a chair. And my chair is surrounded by my stitching paraphernalia. This stitching stand is actually a music stand, a metal music stand. I got this idea several years ago from Organic Granny. This came from my daughter, who played the clarinet in middle school, and I commandeered her metal stand, brought it downstairs when she went into high school and stopped playing in the band. So the great thing about the stand, not only is it just a great place to kind of store your charts and current project and pens and whatever else, but it is metallic. So any of my needle minders, I just stick to the back of the stand. So that's great. I just use a little TV tray with my junk sitting on top of it. You can see some threads from my current project, and I've got this basket underneath, and I'm very ghetto about project bags and things like that. I really just use what I have. These are repurposed. Oh, hello, Colin. These are repurposed, excuse me, thank you. These are repurposed electronic device bags, so like a laptop bag or an iPad bag. And so let me get a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So instead of a traditional project bag, I have some of these. You know, they're kind of hand-me-downs from my kids, things they don't use anymore. Sometimes I've picked them up at thrift stores and you know, they're made out of this, I don't know what they're made out of, but something squishy. Anyway, I just throw them in the washing machine if I buy them, pick them up at the thrift. But they zip on top. I just keep some supplies in them. You know, they're not big enough for, you know, this 11 by 17, but small projects fit beautifully in these. And sometimes I don't use them for the Q-snap. I use them just for the supplies that go with a project. So I've got several of these. And I've just got a basket full of various and sundry things. Now this is kind of cool. This is what I use to keep my orts in, and this is a weighted bag and just a quilted little catch-all down here. And I picked this up at Walmart a couple of years ago, and it was sold for quilters for their scrap material and thread and things like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to be perfect for orts, and it is. So I love it, and you can see that it is well used. So let me show you really quickly the stand. I've got one of these mighty bright lights clipped to the back of my stand. Let me move this, and I know there's a pattern, just don't look at that. You can see where some needle minders are attached. There's my highlighter, and you can see the mighty bright. And so what I do is, if I'm working on a project and need some additional light, I just clip it, and I use the adapter. For those of you that have not tried one of these lights, one thing I learned very quickly is if you just use the battery, the light is too dim. Even though there's two light settings, you know, it really needs the juice of the adapter to give the light, the bright light. And I always use, there's one setting and there's another. I know you can't see that very well, but I always clip that to the top of my project. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be honest about a disadvantage to that light because of the shape. So this is flat. You know, there's a little recessed area on the top, but it will slip off these Q-snaps. I wish these were, you know, this bottom part was kind of rounded a little bit better. I don't know. There may be one that's made that does have a more rounded base. I need to check and see if Stitcherista has done any tutorials that have one. I know she did a couple of tutorials about these little clip-on lights, but I have to have it. We just don't have enough light in this room to satisfy my needs. And because of the way that my chair is, let me back up so I can show you. You can see this is going into the kitchen. I have an Ort light, one of those stands, but I can't really put it behind that chair. Well, I guess I could, but that's kind of a pathway into the kitchen. I don't really like it beside me. I don't know. So if I was in a location where the light could be behind the chair, I would probably use a stand light, but because that just doesn't work for me, I am continuing to use that little clip-on light, and it works for me. So here's my stitching area. So I use this entire corner of the room for my crafting and stitching related paraphernalia. And so this is a drop leaf table that was made by my husband's great-grandfather. And so when I'm needing to cut fabric or have a larger space, I can just obviously lift up the drop leaves, and that I love this because I don't have to have those sides extended all the time, so it kind of saves space in here for this. So I was thrilled to get this storage box. It really fits these storage tubs really nicely. And so I've just labeled the tubs. You can see that one is hot glue, and this one is just various glue and beading products. And so I have just a hybrid of things stored in here. Mostly this is just kind of multi-crafting things. Here's my sewing machine and another frame, a desk.
now holds supplies, of course, in the drawers. Now that I've kind of repurposed it several years ago for crafting paraphernalia, I just use the my cutting board on that desk. That's kind of a good storage place for it. I use a lot of these tubs. I try, if I can, to get clear tubs so I can see what's in them. My magazines, old magazines, are just stored in these crates. I've got lots of crafting and cross-stitch books, seasonal. A lot of these are seasonal books, quilting books and things like that. So maybe I'll peruse some of those for you one day. And so on this side, you can see this is my floss organization. There's paints in those tubs on the bottom, but I really kind of won the lottery a couple of years ago with an estate sale. I reorganized a lot of this and have added to it, but about half of what you see came out of that estate sale. So I have a DMC collection about 4 times over, I think. I have not added the new colors, but I plan to do that. And I just have the boxes labeled so that I can, as I'm kind of shopping for what I need, I try to keep an inventory. It's not great keeping up with what I need, but periodically I try to get my daughter to sit in here with me, and we kind of see what I'm running low on. And then when Joann's has a sale, I try to stock up. Now, I'm going to show you what I have done, because a lot of times I'm too lazy to put thread on bobbins. I'll do it if I'm getting ready to kit up a project, but I'm just not going to sit and bobbinate for, hours on end. So let me show you what my alternative is for extra threads that aren't stored in the floss trays yet. So prepare yourself. This is kind of scary, but I use one of these tubs, and this is where floss that I need to bobbinate lives. And so here's what I've done, because this works for me. I have just bagged the floss kind of by color family. So then when I'm looking for these colors that I'm running low with over here, then I can just say, okay, I'm going to go to the blues and greens. And obviously these are more, they're variegated or colorist. I'm not sure which one that is, but so I just try to put light colors. These aren't in bags, so I don't really know why those are down there. But this entire tub is just kind of loose skeins of thread. This one is these are thread packs that came in some of the I believe it was World of Cross Stitch would put these in. I have never used them, never cracked open the first pack of these, but I would like to, so they're here in this container as well. So that's my system. Admittedly, it's not a great system, but it works for me, and I'm too lazy to bobbinate, so it's going to be like that. So all of these boxes back here have, patterns I have already stitched, new patterns that I want to stitch, and so at some point maybe I'll go through a few of those tubs just to let you see kind of my style and how my style has evolved over the years. I have very few specialty threads. In fact, I only buy specialty threads for a specific project. If I'm getting ready to stitch one, I don't buy them in advance. I just, because I'm too cheap. And so the very few that I have are projects that are coming up. I've got just a couple, and these are, leftover skeins of specialty threads. And I have so few that I just use this one box, and that's how I store them. They're all in there together. Multiple brands are together. I don't have a need for separate storage for different brands because I don't keep them long enough I don't store them. Now, let me just show you. I use occasionally, don't use these a lot, but this is a Scrabble, one of these little trays for Scrabble tiles. And I bought a Scrabble game at a thrift store that I needed the letters for, for a project that I was working on. Didn't need the rest of the pieces, and kept these little trays because I thought maybe I could use those for something. And these are perfect if you want to put the little bobbins, thread bobbins in here. So let's say you're working on a small project. You've got 2 or 3 colors you're working with. You can actually put them on the thread tray, and they work great for that. If you have cats like I do, you just have to be mindful that that's very enticing to have a thread bobbin sitting out, and so I don't leave these out unattended. I'll take it out if I want to use it and set some things out there, but I always put them up. There you go. That's my area. So Goose has a favorite toy. It's called a Wiggle Giggle Ball, and I want you to notice that I'm going to a cabinet because we have to keep this toy in the cabinet because Goose, there's no telling. He could throw it through the television or the window or hit somebody in the head with it. He gets so excited he can hardly contain himself when we get the Wiggle Giggle Ball out. So let me demonstrate that for you. Goosey, you want your toy? Well, yes, I do. But he knows what's in there. Okay, I know. I'm going to get it. Yeah, the ball's in there, isn't it? So there it is in the back, hidden away so he can't grab it. Okay, hang on. Oh, and the ears are perking. Okay, okay. No, just back up a little bit, babe. Okay, so come out here so they can see you. See, when a dog that big is jumping around like that, it could be, although he has no idea how big he really is. So, okay, you want to play with it? Do you want to play with the ball? Okay, ready? Sit. Go sit. Sit. Good boy. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Now, you can hardly see that thing in his mouth. His mouth is so big. Goosey? Do you want to make the noise? Get it, Goose. Get it. Get it, Goose. Really? That's it?
So now it's time for something to think about. I hope that you spent this last month eating a lot of frogs and just catching up with things and not procrastinating. So this month we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to share with you something from a book that I love, and I share this with teachers and building leaders often. This book is called Anyway, The Paradoxical Commandments. This book is about finding personal meaning in a crazy world. I think we can all agree that some days the world is crazier than others, but hopefully this will give you something you can use. People are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. The first commandment, love them anyway. Lucy, in the Peanuts cartoon strip by Charles Schulz, once said, "I love mankind. It's people I can't stand." People can certainly be difficult. Some are hard to love. Some are so illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered that we can't stand them. But we should love them anyway. Love is the greatest gift that we can give and receive. It's a gift that all of us need to give and receive. A life without love is a life that is not fully lived. Don't limit your life by limiting your love. The psychologist Abraham Maslow once observed that love is as essential to the growth of a human being as vitamins, minerals, and protein. I believe that human beings are built to run on love. We're designed that way. If we're not giving and receiving love, we're not operating on all of our cylinders. We're not who we're supposed to be. We're not all that we can be. We're not doing all that we can do. It's a tragedy when people decide not to love others because they don't approve of them, or they see them as illogical or unreasonable or self-centered and not worthy of their love. It's a tragedy because love is not about approval or worthiness. It can't be. All of us have faults and foibles. All of us have moments of poor temper, of weakness, of temptation. All of us have done things that afterwards we wished we hadn't. We don't always behave in approved ways, and we are not always worthy. If approval and worthiness were really a prerequisite for love, there would be very little love in the world. Love is at best unconditional. We love and are loved in spite of our faults and foibles. Of course, we should strive to grow and improve. However, the desire and strength to grow and improve can come from loving and being loved. We all know people who are frustrating to spend time with. They have lots of needs and they are very demanding. They often don't make sense and they are unreasonable in their attitudes. They seem so self-centered. Maybe they are. And yet, if we can love them, they may feel our love, and it may bring out the best in them. Our love can transform people and make them more lovable. As a famous poet once said, love begets love. One of my favorite movies is African Queen, starring Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. Bogart is rather curtsy and Hepburn is rather prissy as they start their trip down the river on Bogart's boat. She doesn't like his drinking and tosses his liquor bottles overboard. He doesn't like her preaching and regrets that he offered to give her a ride. Gradually, however, they are caught up in their common desire to escape from the Germans. They endure hardships, they share compassion, they fall in love, and they become different people. Each of them saw the other as illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. But that's not how they see each other when their trip ends. They beam with love and they're married by the captain of the German gunboat just before it strikes the homemade torpedo sticking out of the half-sunk African Queen. Sometimes people appear to be illogical and unreasonable when they're simply using a different logic and a different method of reasoning. They may have different worldviews or different experiences or a different set of facts than we do. There's a story I remember reading in elementary school, and it's about a group of blind people standing around an elephant. One touched the elephant's trunk and announced that an elephant was like a hose. Another put his arms around the elephant's leg and said the elephant is like a tree trunk. Another placed his hands on the elephant's side and said the elephant is like a wall. And another grasped the elephant's tail and announced the elephant is like a rope. And so it went. Each person was right and each person was wrong. They were right about the parts they touched, but wrong because they didn't see the whole picture. It was not until all the parts were put together that a true picture of an elephant emerged. Ever since reading this story, I've tried to remember that some of the illogical and unreasonable people in the world simply have their hands on different parts of the elephant than I do. Another simple saying is, there are 3 answers to every question: yours, mine and the right one. So, enjoy the immense personal meaning that comes from giving and receiving the gift of love. Love is too important to miss just because others are difficult. Often, they're no more difficult than you and I.